Morning, Richard. How you doing?
Morning, Data Dick 2.
You've made it
Every
much
time.
easier this week.
I have, I know.
I,
And you haven't. Well, you have, but you haven't.
I,
You have, but
I
you haven't
can't.
played the game.
I think I jumped too early at calling myself Dick 2. That's why.
Don't make me laugh again, especially when
there
I'm drinking coffee.
was no hesitation, was there? I just went straight into I'll be 2. That's fine. So
Yeah, I think
I,
that
I
was quite
was
amusing.
I was debating whether you're Dick 1 or 1 Dick. I couldn't work out which way round I was going to call you.
Or A Dick. Definitely
A
A
Dick.
Dick. Yeah.
They're both fine. So
I get I get called all sorts. How was your
awesome.
barbecue anyway?
Good, yeah. I was just going to say, my older brother used to call me Spam, so I won't worry about being called
Spam.
Data Dick. Spam. After the luncheon meat that comes in a tin,
Spam.
that was
Because of
my
spam.
pet name growing up.
Ah, interesting.
So that was nice. But yeah, barbecue was great. Weather was
Talks
lovely.
about
Food was
barbecues.
great. Football was atrocious.
Oh, wasn't it? I'm just going to give us another E for explicit warning straight off the bat. It was shit. It
It
was.
was.
I was just. Oh God. I spent all day yesterday saying I'm not going to put on. Right, I'll just see. And I put a post out yesterday saying I was not really getting it. I'm not really into it. And I'm not. I'm just kind of really meh about the whole thing at the moment. And then I sat down and watched it and went, now I know why. It was just terrible.
In my
Oh,
heart, I've just been watching the Dutch fans dance to their song that goes to the left, to the right. Literally
yeah.
10,000 people dancing
Amazing.
to the
It
same
just
song.
it just make the English fans' songs just seem a little bit bland, doesn't it? Like, apart
He
from
does, doesn't it?
when they get a little bit out of order. But
Yeah, no.
yeah,
And then I don't think Gareth's done himself any favours with the interview afterwards, where he basically went, "It's because we can't replace Calvin Phillips." You know, you've got 20 of the world's best players sitting on a bench. Try
yeah,
using one of
and
them.
he's just picking the wrong people in the wrong
Yeah.
places. I think, unfortunately.
And maybe if you haven't got the players to play in the tactics and the positions that you want, maybe, just maybe, change tactics, play a different style, play attacking football,
Well,
maybe.
well, they did that in the first game, didn't they? They put the first 20 minutes. They were fluid, rotating, moving around, and I'm like, wow. I mean, I'm a City fan, so Phil Foden was popping up all over the place. Even yesterday, when he started playing different places, he looked better. He was more
Yeah,
influential, and then he got plonked straight back out on the wing again. It
yeah,
reminds me of analysing historical data, but if it reminds me of the old um, Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes, Beckham conundrum
yeah.
when four amazingly world class players all trying to play in the same team and it just didn't work.
And it didn't
Well,
work.
it didn't really work, did it? It didn't win anything. Didn't get past anything. So yeah,
No, and that's the thing, isn't it? At some point, there's teams in this competition, and probably Italy are the best example that man to man as 11 players probably aren't as good as what we've got, but actually they play better as a team and they join up better.
even the
And
Germans as well.
yeah, so I think it's just everyone knows what we're going to do. Our tactics are obvious, and even when he took the three forwards off, he put almost three like for like
Well, I
forwards
thought we
straight
played.
back on again.
I thought Watkins. I called that 10 minutes earlier. I thought if he takes Kane, just doesn't look fit to me either. To be honest, he's got no legs.
No,
And not that I wouldn't be blowing out my ass after like 30 seconds, but he said when you put Watkins on, you just looked a different threat. It's just different proposition, and I think
yeah,
that's the anyhow. We've only tentatively touched on data very very loosely, simply because I just threw it in, and it made no sense why I threw it in there,
no.
but I did it anyway. So what we're talking about today?
You came up with some ideas, Richard, for this week,
Yeah,
and the one that you're going to touch at some point is how many Excel warriors you annoyed last week on LinkedIn and why you annoyed them all. And then obviously customer service jargon, things like
yeah.
that you wanted to talk about as well. And
Well,
then I will see if I can match you with how many people I annoyed by saying I didn't like Gantt charts on LinkedIn and and seeing the uproar that
and then I
caused.
said I didn't like pie charts, and then so
we're going from there. So
there
let's
could be
see
a
how
few
many
people.
people.
There could be a few people today.
See how many people we can annoy this week with this episode.
Well, my post, right? Because I'll kind of repeat what I said. I'm not an Excel hater in the slightest. I use it every day. I used it yesterday to do some mapping. I used it the other day to do some consolidation before I created the requirement document. So I use it a lot, right? And it's great for what it does. But I just put it out saying, but there's certain things that it's still being used for that it isn't great for. Now, it's just an opinion. I've seen cases it's an opinion based upon experience and things that I've seen done and used. And all I said was, it's not a database. It's not, it's not, although it can store, quite a fair amount of data. If you are growing as a business and you scale, you will outdo it reasonably quickly. It can be made reasonably secure, but often isn't. So if people are wandering around in coffee shop, working remotely, virtually with Excel files open, even sat on the train the other day, some guy whopped out his laptop and they were Excel reporting plastered all over his screen. And I'm going, it's just that's a whole different topic. But it's I kind of just alluded to that. That there is other ways to do it. There's better ways to do it. If you want more people to access this and be more efficient in your business intelligence and your reporting and dashboards, and you don't want to be version 144.2 final Richard version data dict 2's version, and I know that a lot of this can be mitigated and managed, but it isn't in reality. And that was my post. And so, yeah, a few people kind of didn't like what I'd said, and I get that. And there are people who have their own opinions, and I get that. But a lot of people did. So I just think there's nothing wrong with it at all. It's just been misused and mismanaged.
Yeah. And it's probably right tool, right time, isn't it? Excel is fine for certain stuff, and I use it same as you. Although
and it's fine. It's fine as a bit. If you are a small business and you want to get going, you want to collect some information, and you want to understand that, and you don't have the capacity or time to go out as a very small team to start buying, setting everything up. Yeah. Initially, there's nothing wrong with it. However, and a lot of people were saying this. I saw a couple of posts on this yesterday. People saying there's the best time to start thinking about collecting, analysing and understanding your data is as soon as you possibly can. And then you start to look at how you can be efficient in how you're doing it, and then you build that out. And that's something I've always been a big advocate of. And it's some of the client work I'm doing now is they've said, we don't want to get to the point where it becomes completely and utterly unmanageable, and then we have to try and unravel all of that. You've better to get it in early and get it efficient and maximize, optimized and tidy and tight, accurate, secure and used. And then it just grows out with you as a business.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'll annoy people even more because I prefer Google Sheets to Excel because I'm a Google house. But I say it in projects and project management loads. It's fine. People have information in spreadsheets. What you can't do that you can do with mine is take a single project spreadsheet and suddenly multiply that by 40 projects that you're running and be able to see all the information, all the data at once in one place. So it gives you a much better view than the individual sheet. But if you're only running one project, then Excel would help you do that perfectly well. But as soon as you want to scale or grow, it's not the tool for that. But funny enough, I wrote in I'm going to say my book again. I wrote in my book years ago. I just keep dropping it into.
Did you write a book, Richard?
I wrote a book. Yeah, it's got 20 5-star reviews on Amazon.
Is it?
So they tell me. I don't look every day, so I wouldn't know. But, yeah, well, my mum, the other half, my brother, got them all covered. But in that, I talked around data, and what people do with software is get excited about the features and the functions of the software rather than from day one thinking what data is it collecting and therefore what information is it telling me, and actually sitting down and working that out is more important than whether it's got a nice blue button in the top right hand corner. Or
buttons are pretty nice though.
they are pretty nice, but people see the demos of tools and they look at whether the software's kind of, I wouldn't say flashy, but do you know what I mean? Whether it looks appealing and it's got a nice interface. They don't sit there and go, okay, what's the data and what's it going to tell us and how is this going to be used to drive us forward? And that's the bigger conversation.
It is, and does it cover everything we need? Because how often do you? I've worked in places where they've got 4 different tools going on, reporting from different systems, and you can. I get it. It's normal. It's kind of is it tech debt? Is it really classed as tech debt? I guess it probably could be because you're replicating effort sometimes. I mean, also certain circumstances that have seen people. There is maybe a reporting tool in a business, but it doesn't give them exactly what they want. And then how do they overcome that? So the only option they have is to download that because it's not been implemented or updated correctly. The only way to get what they need is to download, or quite often download stuff from a dashboard tool into Excel to then produce a PowerPoint deck. And you go, it just seems a little bit the wrong way around, really. It's the cart leading the horse, isn't it? It's the phrase. It's almost like the wrong way around. It's you're better off getting your data straight and telling you what you want, rather than going, oh, it's just we're paying for another load of licenses, and we'll just get another tool in and do it properly, and then we'll just get another tool in and do it, and then iteration 4, you've run out of tools to use, and it's the same as anything. I get it, in my it's the same. It is, isn't it? It's the same as anything. But without specking out what you want first and then keeping that going. Because there's always been a tendency, I think, to get to the end of a requirement of a project and then hit stop and then try and pick it up again later when there's a requirements have changed or the outputs are not providing what they need. And then suddenly they're like, well, do we bother continuing with the stack we've got? Do we move on to something else? And then they're trying to retrofit where they are rather than or go after a new tool implementation, a whole new project kicks off. And then you've got, well, we can't get exactly what we want out of the new tool, so we'll have to keep the old tool going for a bit. Yeah. And then you're in this scenario where you've got 2 systems being maintained. And it's like, it's going to be unavoidable in certain circumstances. Of course, there is going to be roguish instances, but if it's done early and done at the point before additional systems come in or platforms come in, you could then build that out around the original requirement, and then you're not trying to then bolt 5 different platforms and dashboards data together too late when you've already got tech debt history building up that you need to include and things like that.
And I see it a lot in local gov tenders where they put obviously specs out to suppliers, and you end up with these 500-page submissions where they've answered every single question, but not a single one is about how does the system help us or deliver better value or deliver a better service. It's a technical spec of can it sit on this server and will it sit behind this, and you just like it's almost like you're coming at it from the wrong angle a lot of the times when you're looking at new software and solutions. And again, local government watching this will all know that everything used to go through business objects or crystal reporting or something like that back in the day. And I know
we're going there.
Yeah, I know performance I'm say back in the day, there's probably quite a lot still use it, and because the software that they've bought for that department only runs with business objects or something. But I also know that the minute they pull a report, someone spends 3 days pretty much going through it and editing the data and changing the data and doing all that before it's then presented. So it's not even giving you a true view of what is happening in the organisation. It's giving you let's say 3/4 view, but then someone is still having to go in manually and update, edit and make changes. And when you say to someone, can you pull me a report on this? And they're like, yeah, you'll have it by next Friday or something. It's like, well, why can't I have it now? I want it now. Why can't I? Oh, because we have to do exactly as you said. We have to export it to Excel, and then from Excel we have to clean it. And we spend 2 days doing that, and then we upload it to this system, and then we'll basically screen grab all that and stick it in a static PowerPoint for you.
Which we spoke about before, where decision maker comes in and just goes, "What do I need to know?" and chucks it in the shredder.
Yeah.
I mean, what? But this is avoidable, right? But this can be avoided if it's viewed as how am I going to phrase this? It's included as part of a growth strategy. So you know that this is the way we're going to go. These are the platforms we're going to use. If we're going to push it all through, we're going to get the routines right. We're going to get the cleansing right. We're going to get the structure right. If we have to change it, then we change it at source. We're not retro changing stuff outside of this. You keep it controlled. So you have all your information and data controlled in as much that you know where it is, you know what it means, you know if something changes, you have to change it. If you know if another requirement comes in that can't currently be fulfilled, you have to then update what needs to be updated. Don't get stuck in this loop of just manually changing things on the fly, because that then becomes an unmanageable beast on its own over time, and then you then have to, how can we replace this process in the data process, the data world? How can we update? And like, well, we could have done it a year ago if we'd have done it, included it as part of that process. And I think it's still not too late to be able to redo a lot of these processes but I just fear that there's a hesitancy to do it because of, do we now have to look at a new platform? Do we have, how long is it going to take to incorporate this? But how long, on the flip side, is, no, you don't have to necessarily have a whole new platform and data stuff set up. You don't necessarily have to invest in new software. Don't look at that as the first option, as fixing problems. But think about the time it's going to save you, the hours. Because, as you said, if you ask for a report, it's going to take someone 2 or 3 days to analyse it and produce it. Work out what that means by way of salary. What's the cost of that? And if they're doing that every week, every 2 weeks, or you've got a team of 2 or 3 people doing this across an organisation every week, you would be stunned what cost starts to add up. So if you then look again, if cost of doing something, once and then maintaining it is putting you off, work out the other side of the coin and see how much time and effort is going into doing the process, or doing the analysis and all that work outside of that, because it's often not known, and it can be quite a scary number that makes people go, Christ, can we automate this? Yes, you can. Just do it, because it's a no-brainer.
And I do it in a lot of the dev work we do in councils as well. It's, if you're already working in the council, half the time your value isn't added into the project cost or the build cost or the dev cost. You just work there, and therefore that's fine. But I flip it, and it doesn't really matter what day rate you use. I normally use about £500 a day, and kind of say, okay, if you're being asked to do this bit, you think it's 20 days work, that's 10 grand of your time, because you need something comparable to if you went external to do it. And also you need to justify your own team. And when you want to grow and recruit more people, you've got something that sits there and says, this is the value we're adding, or this is the work we're doing. And people forget that just because you've employed someone to do reporting for you, it doesn't mean that they should be the most inefficient person in the council or in the business, because it's just a sunk cost and we pay them this salary.
Yeah.
You should be looking at all of that, and exactly as you said, how long am I spending on this task every month? How much is that costing me? And the solution to it might be quite small.
Yeah.
Even to the point, I know I try to avoid AI conversations at the moment, but I'm going to have to mention it. But some of them are looking at AI for kind of like meeting notes and minutes. And if you've been in local government, the amount of minutes and meeting notes produced is ridiculous. But they all come a week after the meeting, at which point you're looking at the minutes and going, okay, from memory, these seem about right. Whereas the new tools are kind of like, well, actually, you can have the minutes within 30 seconds of the meeting ending.
Yeah.
You can even review them before the meeting's ended and see what they're saying. But your ambition, what you were trying to achieve, was the person who was taking the minutes. You want them to be more efficient, more effective, and doing more value work. Excuse me. That is too early in the morning for me after a barbecue and everything else. I'm going to apologise.
Barbecue, yeah.
You're looking at, and again, I saw I hammer people on everything in their strategy should be ambition, problem, action. So what is it you want to achieve? Make that really clear. Too many people don't look at that, work that out, understand what it is they want to achieve. Then you list out the problem stopping you doing it, and then here's a list of actions we can take.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a business case the other week where they'd put in the ambition, and I knew what they were trying to do, but they'd written it wrong, and they'd written the ambition is we want a new bit of software. And it's like, no, that's never your ambition. Your ambition is never that. That department wants to become more efficient, more effective, better at what they do, and serve the rest of the council better. That's your ambition. One of the actions that we might look at is a new bit of software. But the first action we're going to look at is whether your current software is able to do a lot of this without going out and buying something new and going through a whole project and a whole implementation. And likewise with these meeting minutes, it's not everyone in the council who takes minutes. It's a handful of people. It's 5 or 6 people. So again, you don't have to go out massive corporate tooling software for this. There's Firefly, there's Assembly, there's Otter, there's all sorts that will do that job for you. That's like, I don't know what, £5 per user per month or something like that. So for 60 quid, you've solved the problem. But everything gets elevated into like a big corporate.
The hours you've saved across and also there's not just the hours saved, but if you have the ability to review them within almost real time, or at the end of the meeting before you sign them off, you're capturing decisions and actions. Then what if an action that is a crucial action gets missed for a week because they think, oh well, I won't deal with it until I get the minutes through, sorry.
Yeah.
And then suddenly there's a problem occurred and it gets forgotten, or it blows up into a big issue. It's not just the hours saved, it's the speed of action that then come from it, and the focusing of intention, focus. Not my ass, but focus of attention about solving issues and problems in a way.
You could have done your actions before you would necessarily have got the minutes previously through doing something, but it's not. They didn't sit there and go, we want software to do this. It was actually, we want the guys who do the minutes and meetings to be better at doing them, to get them out quicker, for them to spend more time. And funnily enough, the same council did some surveys around AI and people's thoughts and their uses of it. And one of the biggest, fear factors of people using more AI is that everything loses the human touch, and you lose that side to it. And actually, even something as simple as the meeting minutes is the exact opposite, because the people who were doing the minutes have now more time to do the human touch and to spend more time with people. So how you use it, how you look at it, has always been, what is it you want to achieve? What's the end outcome that you want to achieve from doing this? What's stopping you from getting there? And then what are we going to do? And that comes back to your point around the projects and the data and knowing where you're going. If you don't really understand what the outcome was you were trying to get to, then sometimes you will stop the project once it's live and implemented and you've got a dashboard and you're going, okay, brilliant, that's everything we wanted. But actually it wasn't, because
wanting a dashboard and wanting better reporting is not really, it's not the specific outcome that you're looking for. Better is what? What does that mean? Why do you want better reporting? Because we want to cut our costs or something on our products, on our imports or something. Well, then there's how are you going to do that? It's another very non-technical conversation that you then go. I always say that tech is a facilitator to the solution. It's not the solution itself. It will enable you, particularly in the data world, enables you to, it will support you to make better decisions and and reporting, understand what's going on quicker and better than anything else. That doesn't mean it solves the outcome is not I've got better reporting. It's I now make better decisions faster. I've saved time exponentially, and it's actually saving me money because I'm not spending huge amounts of time producing this. I'm making better decisions because I'm informed. That's the outcome, not the oh, have you seen my dashboard? It's amazing.
I say the same with things like CRMs, because the ultimate goal of the CRM, let's say it's for a sales team, is the ultimate aim is that your sales increase, isn't it? That's the whole point of putting it in the first place. Now, whether that's through doing better marketing, better leads, and whatever, that's fine. But so your CRM going live is almost the starting point of your project. Yes. That's almost like day one. We've got the software in to help you because we identified you were working off paper notes and Excel, for example, and it's grown too big for that. So now you've got a CRM. Here's what it's going to do, but it's not all of a sudden you're not going to sit there and go, oh, brilliant, we've got a CRM. I've now got 10 times as many leads. It's still got to go and get that for you and help you through that process. Yeah. But too many people will stop at the go live and go, right, that project's done.
Yeah, why haven't my sales increased?
Why haven't my sales increased? But you need to be looking 6 months down the line or 12 months down the line and then looking back and going, have they increased or not? And why not? And what's happened with the tool? Are we using it right? Are we doing the right stuff? Because there's other elements, whether it's customer services with the CRM or whether it's sales or whether it's marketing, there's always an end outcome that you're trying to get to. And in the business world, it's generally more money, more cash, more efficient, more savings, more profit. They're kind of the things you're aiming for. These are just tools to, as you say, to help you get there, to make decisions quicker, to be more agile and adaptable in what you're doing as a business, because you can very quickly see what's happening. And if you're steering off the path slightly, you can very quickly go, right, stop that. We need to bring it back to where we need to be headed for.
Yeah, so I'm conscious of time. So talk to me about Gantt charts.
Gantt charts are the bane of my life. Right, without upsetting everyone,
I'll just sit back and wait for this one.
I fully understand that if you're in certain industries and maybe construction, rail industry, things like that, running £100 million projects, having a Gantt with a schedule and everything else is probably quite useful.
Even saying the word Gantt makes you chuckle. That's quite.
It does. I can't not say it. But in my world of IT and digital, they've literally just become a document that is produced because the Prince 2 guide says you should have this document. And therefore, the minute you get it, so it's in all tenders. So a tender goes out to a company and it will say, send us your Gantt chart of your implementation. So they'll send a generic Gantt chart. And I've built them, I've done them and sent them in based on absolutely nothing. It's just, here's a Gantt chart because you've asked for a Gantt chart. Because at no point has that Gantt chart gone, right, what are your resources in your team that are going to be working on this with me? Who's available, who's not, when are they on leave, when can I have access to your IT team? All of that stuff, you don't have that information when you're at the kind of tender stage. You can just give a generic that says, our bog standard process, if everything goes perfectly right, you give us every resource we need on the exact minute we need it. Here's a 3-month plan. And then what happens is the procurement gets delayed and it goes on. So the start date's now wrong anyway. And bits like that. So do you know what I mean? I've just lived in a world where they're so wrong constantly, and you'll get things like one person in the council's got a Microsoft project license. So they update the Gantt chart and then they send it to you as a PDF. Now, if you ever printed an old Gantt chart in the old days, it didn't print in the right order. It printed about 50 sheets of A4 that you then had to try and stick together. And the minute you've stuck it together, old Bob stuck his head in the office and gone, I've just changed the Gantt chart slightly.
Yeah. It's like, I've actually done that. I've only did that last week.
Yeah. And people see it as a kind of blocking time out as to what things were doing. And again, I think my knowledge of the Gantt chart is that you're allocating the amount of time that the task will take, not kind of the window that the task will be done in. So you've got, it's either that or the other way around. They annoy me that much. I'm not even going to quibble. But people use them wrong. They literally just pull a chart out and says, right, we'll do 3 weeks of data testing, we'll do 4 weeks of this, and then 2 weeks of UAT, and then we'll go live. And that's my Gantt chart. And I think in the other industries, in rail and construction, oil, that people are paid a lot of money. I was talking to someone yesterday. It's a 70, 80 grand a year job to manage the schedule of these projects. And yet we'll give a project to the person who's got 10 minutes spare each week and then ask them to produce a Gantt chart. And they're just not, it's a document that people just look at and go, oh yeah, we're on track. But it doesn't tell you anything at all. They're useless. And that's why I dislike them. It's not the chart itself. It's how badly used they are, how badly run.
So we're back to the same topic, aren't we? It's not necessarily issues with the tools, it's how they're used.
Yeah, and my experience of digital projects, working in IT and working local central government, is that they're incredibly badly used. And that was my point. And then what annoys me with LinkedIn is, although you write that and say, I don't like Gantt charts, all the construction guys and everyone who came for me to pretty much stand outside with flaming torches to burn the witch, hadn't actually looked at my profile and gone, oh, this guy works in that industry. It's not the same as us. I've got no idea how projects run in construction or oil or rail. I assume they're massive projects with lots of people, lots of resources. But if your scheduler is earning 70, 80 grand a year, in local government, that's a senior director job. They don't put that level onto it. Project management is wrongly seen as like an entry level job in many ways, and therefore the credence it's kind of given, and then the documentation and everything else is just, oh, we'll do it because the Prince 2 guide says you do this stuff, without really much thought about it. So I obviously push for being more agile anyway.
And they probably just go into ChatGPT to get the documents produced now anyway.
Yeah, well, you would do if you got any sense.
This is the project, this is what we're doing, this is the timeline, produced the document, please.
Because all you're doing is producing the documents to tick a box to say you've produced the documents. You're not doing it because that's the actual schedule you're working to, or the actual data that's correct in it. And I think that's almost why it's probably not given the right level of credence anyway. But yeah, wrong tool for the wrong job in a lot of cases. A lot of the time it is Excel as well. They don't have any project tools, so they create a Gantt chart in Excel, and you're like, okay, that's fine.
That's like double bubble of annoyance, isn't it?
Really? Yeah, that should be my thing. I hate Gantt charts when they're done in Excel because Excel isn't up to it.
And then put your helmet and gum shield on and wait.
Yeah. and sit and wait for the comments. Mind you, I'd get more comments on LinkedIn than I do for any of the useful things I post. So I won't go down that route. But yeah, it's funny because it is, what are the outcomes you want to achieve of the project? The outcomes are this, but actually you're putting so much emphasis on kind of governance and the project documentation and the other bits that you end up almost forgetting what the outcomes were that you were trying to achieve in the first place. And everything centers around, well, this project won't go wrong because we've got all of the right, the governance in place, the meetings, the boards, we've got the Gantt charts, we've got the PID document, we've got all this stuff. But actually, at the end of the day, you've forgotten that you had an outcome that you wanted to be delivered, and you wanted people to work better, more efficient. And you don't need all of that stuff to do that. You need bigger meetings around what is the ambition, what are the outcomes, what we're trying to achieve.
And it's the same with the same as the data world, because it often, as you said, you get lost in tech, the solution, the aesthetics of the dashboard. I mean, obviously, you make them look as nice as you can because it's going to be more appealing, and you're going to engage more people if it looks better than looking like a pile of crap.
Yeah.
But it kind of, you need to be reviewing regularly what is on there to make sure, as you say, that you're still hitting the mark and fulfilling the business needs of what it is, not whether something's a different shade of red or blue, or you know what I mean. I know there's corporate cutting, you got all that kind of stuff going on, but that's not really a top priority. You don't want it. You should be reviewing it, going, is it giving you what you need before you even talk about aesthetics or Gantt charts or pie charts.
Yeah,
are my issue.
And same for me. And I'll hammer the message home. I'm doing a podcast next week, I think, for local government. I'm going to hammer the message home on, if you get your strategy right and you do it in the right way, and you know what you need to achieve as the whole organisation, as individual departments, and you can identify the problems, then your change team can come up with digital answers, people answers, process answers, and we can start to work through that. If everything's fluffy, and I think I mentioned before my favourite book, The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham, there's a chapter in that called Generalizations Kill Clarity. And he hammers at the point that you need to put numbers against stuff. You need to actually have measures. It can't be, we want to be better at customer service, because that means nothing. So having set your ambitions and your numbers, identifying the problems stopping you get to those numbers is much easier than someone just saying, we want to be better, and what's stopping us being better. And then from there, you obviously drive it all the way through, so that any project you are doing, whether it be dashboards or whatever, or pulling data into data lakes, you're clear on what the outcome we wanted to achieve was, because this department or our organisation has the ambition to hit this point, whether that's number of sales or profit margin or revenue or whatever it is, and we've played our part in helping them get there, because we've basically knocked off this list of problems that was identified as being the blockers on that journey.
Right, I'm going to have to love you and leave you.
No worries, I think we've annoyed enough people today anyway.
It's guaranteed. It's guaranteed. 100%.
We shall stop there.
Have a great weekend.
Hopefully Tuesday's football will be better.
I doubt it. I have no confidence. Right.
No, neither do I. Right, mate, see you later. Bye. Peace.